House Wald. Oh,
Yuri,
can you
what's
hear me?
up? I can hear you, man.
Awesome. Great. Good to see you.
You as well. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm actually broadcasting from a really random spot. I'm sitting in my van in Patagonia, Arizona. I'm down here for a media camp with Velo News and staying with some friends. So the best place to host this is out in my Sprinter van.
Sweet. Dude, the
Yeah.
first time I heard of Patagonia, Arizona, it was only referenced as Patagonia. And I was like, oh shit, you're going to South America. And they were like, no, I'm going to Arizona.
But we could talk about Patagonia later, but this place is really magical, as you know for sure. It's
Yeah.
one of the most biodiverse regions in the country, and tons of bird species and moth species and hummingbirds and bats and big cats and lots of gravel. And there's the AZT trail. Have you ever done that for like an FKT or anything like that?
I've not been on that section. I've been on a lot of the AZ trail, but not through Patagonia. Yeah, but it's like a biking haven, right? Like, anytime I've heard about Patagonia, Arizona, it's been from cyclists.
Yeah, it's blowing up down here for sure. The gravel is hot for sure. It's always been like a birder sort of artist hippie enclave, but now the gravel cyclists are overrunning it. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about. Well, first I need to say hello. I'm Yuri Hauswald. Dude, you're already beating me to the punch.
Oh shit! Sorry, man. Right,
That's
we're supposed to
okay.
cheers.
Yeah, cheers. This is a happy hour. So everybody out there watching, I'm Yuri Hauswald, GOO's Elite Athlete Manager, and I have the deep honor and pleasure tonight to chat with second place finisher of the Black Canyon 2021 event. This is your third year in a row of getting a golden ticket. We can talk
That's right.
about that.
That's right.
And you had a really gritty finish. I just read your blog, and it kind of made me tear up. You're a really good writer.
Well,
You
thanks,
are.
man. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we get started, though, can you maybe paint a picture for folks who don't know what the Black Canyon event looks like or is like? What's the terrain like? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. To zoom out even a bit further, the Black Canyon 100K is one of the golden ticket races. And a golden ticket race, there's 5 of them, and if you finish top 2, you gain automatic entry to the Western States endurance run, which is, I think, the oldest 100-mile trail race in the world, but certainly in the country. So these races tend to be fairly competitive, and if you want to run Western States and you can't get in through the lottery, which is super tough, you got to try to race your way in. So, yeah, the Black Canyon Trail, I was first introduced to, I think it was back in like 2016, through this race, the Black Canyon 100K, which I think started in like 2012 or so, maybe 2011. And it's a beautiful part of Arizona, sort of overlooked maybe, because it's between Flagstaff, which is a running mecca up in the high country, the high desert at the base of the San Francisco Peaks. It's 7,000 feet, and then you have Phoenix down to the south. Big city, people know Phoenix. But yeah, in between, there's a stretch known, the Black Canyon is in this corridor, and it runs north to south. It's not a super big canyon, but it's beautiful. It's at the base of the Bradshaw Mountains.
Okay.
Amazing views, and the course profile, right? So like you're going to run a race, you look at the course profile, and you're like, okay, how tough is this race? Well, it's a net downhill course, like 2,000 feet. So like the course profile just kind of looks like you dip down and then you kind of roll and you dip down and you kind of roll. It looks really fast. But as anyone knows who's been out on trails in Arizona, they're pretty rugged, and they're never like flat. They're always kind of going a little up or down or kind of like in and out of a wash. They're rocky at times. So it's a pretty tough trail overall. So it takes the times are a lot slower than you might expect. But yeah, it's
Are you in cactus country? Are you getting to run through saguaros and stuff like that?
Totally.
Cactus, all that. Yeah.
Tons of cactus, barrel cactus, prickly pears. You hit the saguaros about halfway into the course. As you start to get further south, it's like the northern boundary for saguaro country, which is a really small like ecosystem in terms of like where they grow. But they're massive, beautiful. I mean, the course is amazing. It's so pretty. So Yeah, so this was actually my fourth time lining up for this race, the Black Canyon 100K, and my second time getting a golden ticket and racing my way into Western States.
And placing second this year, right? You took second place?
Second this year, that's right, which is the highest I've finished at the race. I really wanted to win, but it doesn't always happen that way, does it, Yuri?
No, rarely does. It rarely does. But after reading your blog, I mean, you showed, obviously not a, tremendous amount of physical fitness, but persistence, because actually one of the only questions that came through, besides all these comments about your amazing hair and saying, like, I've seen stuff pop up here, like he's the most handsome rider and all that. Dude, you have a huge fan club out here that are shouting you out. I wish you could see all the comments. But somebody called I Run for My Girls on IG said, what happened to your quads at mile 51? What do you think caused it? How you prevent it in the future? And this is the perfect example of you, I think, being really persistent and probably stubborn and tapping into the power of the mind. But I'll let you tell the story and answer this question.
Yeah, of course. It around pretty early-ish in the race, around mile 38. You're in the second half. I just took a step and just felt this kind of pain shoot up my hamstring, up into my groin, kind of brought me to a standstill. I was stopped for a second, and just, your mind starts to run. You're like, well, how bad is this? Like, what do I do? You're kind of freaking out. So I've done these races enough, even though I've never felt that particular pain. I've dealt with some stuff, and I know I just need to kind of chill out and try to assess it. Almost always, it's a question of just being slightly off with your fluids or your calories or your electrolytes. Almost always. So I think I was a little bit dehydrated, and we'll I think talk more about this.
Sure.
With respect to COVID protocols, but
yes, totally.
The only access point for your crew was mile 50. Or 51. So you were basically self-sufficient the first 50 miles. I mean, you could have drop bags and stuff like that, but I was basically just carrying everything on me, right? Like all my nutrition, I would just get water at the aid station.
Yeah.
So I think I was just a little bit behind. I mean, typically you go through an aid station to see your crew, you got your water bottle that might have, your drink mix in there or just water. And so you're getting extra fluids in. But yeah, I didn't have that. And so I think I was a little bit behind. And as a result, I kind of had this, I guess you'd call it a cramp of sorts. So I just kind of had to run slower. It seemed like the only thing that was keeping it from flaring up too bad. So I really just.
And you were in fourth, right? At that time?
Actually, when it first happened, I was in second. I had just moved into second place. And in fact, when I came to a standstill, I looked back and I could see the guy I just passed.
Oh.
And so that just sort of added to like what do I do here? So I was in second. I stayed in second for another 6 miles or so till mile about 44. And then Tyler Green passed me and moved into second. We ran together for a few miles, but he moved ahead. So now I'm back in third. I'm out of the golden ticket territory. I'm feeling like I don't know what's going on with my leg. I can't run fast. So definitely your mind starts to run. Again, you just got to stay calm and try to deal with it. But when I got to the aid station where I got to see my crew, I took a bunch of electrolytes, bunch of liquids, probably a liter of fluid. Took a little bit of Advil, which can be helpful during a race.
Can I ask you about your crew? Were you guys corralled? I mean, and we won't go off on the full COVID thing yet, but were they in their own specific corral, and how did that look different this year? Just curious.
Well, so they restricted who could be at the aid station. So you were allowed to be there. You sort of were supposed to kind of have an estimated time for your runner, and you were supposed to be there within a 30-minute window of your runner arriving. So there was next to no one at the aid station aside from the volunteers. So I was not really assessing that situation. I just remember there not being people. I just remember showing up and it was here's my crew, and there's no one else. So it looked different in that way. Typically you come into these aid stations, there's dozens and dozens of people, but just very, very sort of skeleton crew in terms of who was allowed there. But Yeah, so I kind of rallied. I picked up my pacer, Stephen Kirsch, which was super helpful. Buddy of mine up in Flagstaff.
He just commented. He just
Oh,
gave you a
nice,
cowboy. He just gave you a cowboy hat emoji, dude.
awesome.
So yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Steve, if you're still here, thanks, man. You helped me rally. So yeah, he was
Oh
running with
yeah.
me, and it was just nice to be running with somebody familiar that I train with and everything. And yeah, we just kind of were able to flip a switch, and this cramp kind of wasn't too bad. It flared up a few times, but I was able to just slow down for a minute and then pick it back up right away. So
Do
we just
you
kind of,
tell him? Do you tell him that you're hurting a little bit when he comes in to pace you, or do you keep that to yourself, or
no,
how does that work with your pacer?
first thing I told him when I came into the aid station. My soon-to-be wife, Jackie, was also there. My mom was there. It's very first thing I said to him, I was like, I don't know, I probably shouldn't curse. I don't know what the heck's going on. I did not use the word heck, but I don't know what's going on. And they were really, really good about just saying, hey, stay calm, take a few minutes, like you have time, don't worry, like we're gonna figure it out, just kind of saying the right things.
Yeah.
And that helped out a lot for sure.
And so then I guess then take us through the last little bit with your pacer there.
Yeah, so we within 3 miles, I think a little before 3 miles out of that aid station, so close to mile 54 on the course, turned a corner, and there was Craig Hunt, who was then in second place, and he was walking towards us because he pulled the plug and decided he was going to drop at that aid station, so he had to walk back, which I'm sure was a tough decision. Walking 3 miles in the wrong direction is not a lot of fun. But we passed him, and then I was in second, and then it was just kind of, it was kind of funny. It felt like, it felt really familiar, like oddly. Well, maybe not oddly, but like this was my third time racing my way into Western States. And once you've done it twice, I guess, you kind of have convinced yourself you can do it again. And so when I was that late in the race and I realized I was in that position again, it was just kind of like, yeah, this is how it should be. So let's keep it that way. And yeah, we were able to really roll pretty well. And in fact, I was about 9 minutes behind Tyler Green at mile 51, who eventually won. And at the end, I was only 4.5 minutes back. So we were, over those last 12 miles, obviously we were able to move pretty well. Yeah. And as I told you, I think that speaks to really having my nutrition dialed, right?
Yeah. So maybe this is a good segue, and I just want to preface this. You can't reveal the flavor yet of the new Roctane drink, just so before you like it,
Sure.
because I know you would, and it would be awesome. But we have to tease our audience here. We have a new flavor of Roctane drink that Eric used. It helped fuel him to his second place, but he can't tell you what the flavor is just yet. March 1st. But
Cool.
Tell us about your nutrition plan a little bit.
Yeah, so I back in 2017 at the Black Canyon 100K, it felt like that was the first time I really had my nutrition dialed, and that was the first time, and this was before GU was a sponsor of mine, so this was very unbiased. It was the first time I only used GU products, and I felt like I really just had good energy levels the whole day, and things went well. So I just started using GU all the time, and then bugged the hell out of you guys to sponsor me, so it worked out. But yeah, so
It did.
It did, yeah. I shoot for like for an 8-hour race, definitely a high enough intensity that I always go liquid calories. So it's powders. I use the GU Roctane drink mix in my water, and then I'll just take gels. But I don't eat any waffles or any chews.
Yep.
It's just
Yep.
it's tough on the stomach at that intensity. So I was taking a serving of GU Roctane drink mix, 250 calories a serving, putting that in 16 ounces of water every hour, and then I would have a gel every hour. I again used the GU Roctane gels,
Yep.
and so I was taking about 350 calories an hour, probably about about a liter of water every hour. And it just, the electrolytes are in the gels in the drink mix. So like, especially if it's a nice day, which it wasn't too hot. You don't have to worry about electrolytes. It just like takes that out of the equation, because you're getting what you need through the calories. And yeah, you just stuck to that formula, and like felt great at the end. That's the best I've ever felt at the end of a 8-hour race.
Well, I want to circle back because it's actually, I mean, it's the BCAAs really, right, that help distinguish our Roctane line of products. And one of the benefits of BCAAs is your mental clarity or focus. So,
Yep.
yeah, maybe speak to that. I did see photos of you at the end, and you look pretty good, right?
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
that
Yeah.
again, it's like the
So go
most
ahead.
with it I've ever been, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is
I know
great.
the feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know who really got me into the BCAA game? Well, two people, but Patrick Reagan and Chris Brown.
Yeah.
Both GU. Well, at least Patrick's a GU athlete, but both users of the product.
Chris Brown's, he's under the table. He's
Okay,
also
cool.
a Hoka runner, right? Yeah, he's under the
right.
table, but we set up Chris Brown too. But yeah, Patrick Reagan for sure. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Yep.
thanks for clarifying. And
Yep.
I'll have to give Chris shit that he's not officially with you. But yeah.
Well, it's my fault because I deal with the athletes.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, Patrick, I remember telling me before Western States, like, you know, these BCAAs in the GU products, like, and then there's capsules. You can take the BCAA capsules direct. He's like, definitely supplement, like, take all the BCAAs. Like, just take them. Like, the whole time, it's going to help. And I had other issues at Western States the 2 years I've run it, but it certainly wasn't a lack of those. But yeah, I think, again, going back to 2017, when I felt like I really started to get nutrition dialed, I don't think I necessarily could have explained it to you. I didn't have the knowledge that, say, you have or I have now. But yeah, I think that combination of just the right carbohydrates, having those BCAAs, having a little bit of caffeine, it's just like this slow drip that just keeps you just on all day.
Dude, that's funny you say the slow drip because Rebecca Rush and I use the sip, sip, nibble, nibble to sort of describe, you know, a long, in nutrition plan for, you know, like a 10, 12, 13-hour gravel race, just little bits the whole time. Somebody just chimed in here, and Aaron Newell.
What's up, Aaron?
Aaron Newell says, Pat literally downed 3 bottles of BCAAs the week before Comrades. I don't know if that's a good thing, but I'm glad Pat's still with us. So, yeah. The BCAAs, I mean, it makes sense that it came via Patrick because he works a lot with Magda Boulay, right? You know, our head of R&D and Western States winner and just amazing all-around human being and athlete. So, yeah, BCAAs are my secret weapon as well. And I'm super excited that our new drink mix, Roctane drink mix, worked for you.
I actually did not use it before race day, which is
that's like the cardinal sin.
I know, but I figured it's a GU Roctane drink mix. They're all great. Like, I'm gonna get the same thing, you know?
Yeah. It's a really good flavor.
I really wish I could say it because it was so tasty. But March 1st. We'll wait.
Sorry, we have to tease him a little bit. So, you know, let's talk about, you know, what's probably on a lot of people's minds. I know it was on your mind going into Black Canyon. It's on Jamil's mind as he's putting together Black Canyon. It's on GU's mind as we think about events and sponsorship and engagement. And, you know, I've sort of been using the analogy, and for folks that don't know out there, I ride gravel bikes and go to a lot of events, and part of my job is to connect with the community. And one of the analogies I've been using lately is like, we're all in outer space. We've been in the COVID bubble outside, and now we're trying to figure out how we sort of re-enter the atmosphere of events. And, you know, you come in at the wrong angle, right? You might burn up or skip along the atmosphere. You come in, you know, maybe find just the right balance of whatever it is, and you make it in. And there's no real right answer right now, but let's talk about like pandemic and maybe some of the protocols that Jamil and his crew put in place. And I know I just kind of threw a whole bunch at you there, but I'll let you riff with it. Go for it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really dictated largely by the counties that you're working in, right? In the permitting process. I haven't spoken to Jamil about this specifically, but I think this is all true. And I think in Yavapai County, where the race is held, I think largely, if not exclusively, I think they had the right right combination and the right ideas in place. And you know, you're going to be masked when you're around people, I mean, broadly speaking. So, I mean, the race started on a track. and you're amongst your peers. You're all pretty close at that point, and pretty much everybody was masked up. They had their masks on. When you came in and out of aid stations, you'd throw your mask on before as you came in to, be courteous of the volunteers who were out there willing to help. They, like I said, so you couldn't. You had to get dropped off at the start. You couldn't park. Or you had to take the shuttle. There were no crews allowed, family members, anything like that. Same thing at the finish. You had to take a shuttle out of the finish line. Only racers, aside from the volunteers and so forth, but no crew or anything at the finish. And then through the middle, the duration of the race, there's only one crew access point. So there's, they sort of eliminated people being at aid stations and congregating, which, I think are the right precautions to take. And then the last thing is they did waves. So they had 30 to 40 runners go every 15 minutes, which really spread everybody out, a lot over the course of the trail. So that by the time you got to mile 50, runners were coming in, sparsely, and you didn't have a huge influx. So those crews could come in, help the runner get out. They did a great job in terms of ensuring that people could race and still feel like they weren't putting anyone at risk, including themselves. So, again, Yavapai County, I think, did a great job with that. Obviously, Aravaipa running and in the crew there, Jubilee, the race director, and Jamil did a good job following those rules and ensuring that it went well.
Do you know, did they have to cut down the number of participants that could partake?
Yes, that as well. Good. Yeah, there were so many. They sent out an email a couple of days before the race with all these things and all these protocols, and it was so long that yes, I forgot some of them. They also reduced the field. I think it was nearing 800 runners at least a couple of years ago when I ran it. So I think the field this year was reduced to 500 or less in the 100K. So yeah, there was also a reduction in participants.
Yeah, it's a really tricky equation to figure out right now, because if you're the event, right, you're fewer participants, but you have more mitigations you have to put in place, which cost you more, right? Not that you don't want to do the right thing, but it's this really precarious relationship right now with the things that they have to put in place to even put their events on, and then is it profitable for them?
Yep.
Yeah, it's really tricky times. Did you get a chance to chat with those guys at all?
I talked to Jubilee, the race director, a bit at the finish line, and yeah, she was. I just said, hey, thanks. You guys did a great job. I'm sure this wasn't easy, and she reinforced that idea that it was not easy, and it was a very trying week and I think months leading up to it. So huge kudos to Jubilee and Aravaipa Running and the whole crew that helped put that on, and that goes for any race really happening right now. I think if races are happening, that I do think they're doing it in a safe manner. Again, I think largely dictated by the county regulations. But where races are able to be held, I do think they're doing a good job so that people should feel comfortable going out and putting a bib on. Yeah.
If you had to pick one or two of the mitigations they put in place that made you feel more safe, could you put a finger on it?
I think the wave starts and no crews or spectators at aid stations, because at that point you're out running on the trails. No different than if you went on a training run on the trails in your hometown, right? It felt just like that. It felt like going out on a run anytime over the last year on the trails, because you don't have groups congregating. You don't have big packs of people on the trails. So I think those two were especially useful.
Yeah, that's good. All race promoters, event promoters are having to adapt and figure this whole new landscape out. So that's why I was really keen to chat with you, because you're one of the first people I interact with that I know has, participated in real life event. And, as somebody who participates in gravel rides and is trying to look out and see what's going to happen during 2021, I'm really not so sure what's going to happen yet. If you had your crystal ball, do you have a sense of what you think might be coming? Obviously Western states, hopefully, but like you said, California is a little bit more particular and tight with
Yes.
some of their protocols when it comes to cases per county and stuff like that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, certainly no guarantee with anything. I'm hopeful Western States happens. I think there's good reason to believe that a race of that size, they're capped at 369 runners, could over the course of 100 miles, that length, of course. I think there's good reason to believe you can put that on safely. So I am hopeful that it happens, and of course that's what's next for me if it does happen. So. But having that said, I think we got another year before like it's really going. It guaranteed races, right? Because I think the rollout of the vaccine and reduction of cases nationwide and worldwide, it's just going to take more time. And I think we still got a little ways before we have any promises, I guess.
I am in agreement with you. While I would love to be the eternal optimist. Just looking at some of the things you're talking about, slower rollout, numbers still not really declining that much, and just, it's probably not socially responsible to encourage thousands of people yet to gather, whether it's outdoors or not. So it's super tricky. I mean, you're seeing in the gravel scene a lot of events trying to push to the fall already this year, and that may even be wishful thinking. Unfortunately.
Yeah, and having that said, I do think that trail and ultra running is the sphere where things
Agreed.
should happen soonest, right? Yeah. Like I can understand why the New York Marathon wouldn't happen. You got 25,000 people all packed together at the start, but I think these races,
like a Boston where people have to get on buses to get to the start or something.
Yeah, but a couple hundred people out in the woods, over 100 miles of point-to-point trail. I think you're starting to get into territory where it's responsible and not unreasonable to sort of have those events. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hopeful that we will develop more rapid testing, right? So you could show up at an actual event, which would allow you to have more, and as long as you could breathe into it or spit on it or whatever it is and show, that would help too. I don't feel like we've seen the science totally catch up yet.
Sure.
Either.
Yeah, and to speak to that point, I was a commentator at Hoka's Project Carbon X2 last month in January, and I had 2 rapid tests that were sent to me that I sent into the lab the days before I left to travel. Of course, I just had to drive because it was in Arizona, which was nice, and then got tested upon arrival. And I think that was a good example of. And it's not cheap, so not everybody can do that. But a good example of using what's available to put on events in a safe way, for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. It'll be interesting to see how things shake out. I think it's just good to remind people to, be patient, try to be, not that judgmental. I was writing with some editors from Vela News today, and we were talking about this very topic, confronting the gravel scene, and one of them commented that this year needs to be the year of no judgment because we're kind of right. But we're kind of entering that time where Black Canyon was able to host their event safely, right? But there might be some people, some hardliners who would think any sort of gathering like that, right, might not be safe to do at this point. And their point could be valid. So it's what I'm saying. I mean, it's just tricky right now.
It is
to figure it all out for sure.
Again, feel very fortunate. I had the opportunity. I hadn't raced in 13 months since January 2020. So, just feel very lucky that I was able to have a race that went on in a safe way. So that was good.
Yeah. I don't want to end on the COVID note. I want to circle back to something, I mean, it's real. We need to talk about it.
For sure.
Everybody's facing adversity in different ways. I want to acknowledge that for sure. But I want to circle back to something I was struck by in your blog about how you attack your races. Maybe talk about that. You had a good line in there, and I'm not remembering it like right now. But basically, it was like you like to go out and hit people over the head immediately and see who can stay with you. So maybe talk us through that. That might be a good thing to end on as we, face a 2020 that, may not be what we think it will be, and we need to keep being persistent and maybe hitting people with some hammers.
For sure, for sure. Well, I should start, as I tried to caution when I wrote a recap of the race, by saying I have neither the talent nor the accomplishments to race as I would truly want to all the time, because there's too many talented runners, more talented than me, more successful than me, that I have to line up against. But when I do have the opportunity amongst the field and given the course, if it suits me well, I do like to race from the front. I think it's a really bold way to race. There's a great quote from Annie Dillard, a writer. She said that courage can't be tested cautiously, and I think that's a really beautiful sentiment, because I mean, if you want to really be courageous, it's you really got to go out there and put yourself on the line, and I like to do that because I think it forces other people to do that too, and I think ultimately you end up getting the best out of yourself when you put yourself in a position where maybe you're taking some serious risks. So I did that at Black Canyon and went to the front and ran hard at the front and tried to put some pressure on people. And I mean, it worked. There was a lead group of 5, and I was the only one to finish. The other 4 dropped out. And props to those guys for sure for going out hard and putting things on the line. But it doesn't always go your way. I was fortunate that it went my way on the day.
That's awesome. So one last thing, somebody's heckling from the crowd here. A bird Heezy says, has your beer mile time improved? Because he notices that we're both drinking beer.
Yeah. That's from Owen. Thanks, Owen, for the question. No, I've yet to break 7 minutes in a beer mile, which is a real shame. I need to work on my beer drinking. I can't drink beer fast enough. So
after Western States.
Yeah, I gotta buckle down and get ready for that. But that's right. This summer, I'll see if I can make some improvements on my beer mile.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Eric, we're at a half an hour, and I just want to thank you for giving up your part of your evening to share your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience, your perspective on these challenging times that we're all trying to navigate right now, and providing a lot of inspiration. I will say to the crowd, if you haven't read his blog about Black Canyon, read it. He's still a mama's boy, which is awesome. I love mama's boys. It's rad. And he's about to get married.
Yeah. So, thank you, man.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for being here tonight. And March 1st, we can say what the flavor is.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm just going to tweet it like 1,000 times. Yeah.
Do whatever floats your boat. You can do whatever you want. And I thank you for that. So
For sure. Well, Yuri, thanks for having me, man. Yeah. It's an honor. I appreciate it.
Have a good night. And
you
I'll
too.
be in touch. Yep.
All right.
Later.
Thanks.
Yeah, see you.